Imagine getting fired from your job for something as simple as your appearance, something completely out of your control. That's exactly what happened to James, a black man who was dismissed by a major company for what they called an inappropriate appearance. The decision was crushing, but what came next was nothing short of extraordinary. A year later, against all odds, James returned to that very company, not as an employee, but as the CEO. How did he go from being rejected to leading the organization that turned its back on him? The journey of resilience, determination, and confronting deep-rooted biases is nothing short of inspiring. In this video, we'll dive into James' story, exploring the struggles, triumphs, and lessons learned along the way. But the real question is, how did he pull off the impossible? Stay tuned to find out. James had always been a hard worker, someone who gave everything he had to his job. He showed up early, stayed late, and went above and beyond to deliver results. But none of that seemed to matter the day he was called into the manager's office. The conversation was short and cold. They told him his appearance didn't align with the company's standards. He left that day feeling humiliated, questioning everything about himself. Was it the way he dressed, the way he looked, or something deeper that they didn't say out loud? What made it even harder was how his coworkers reacted. Some avoided him, while others whispered behind his back. It felt like the world had turned against him. But James didn't let it end there. What no one saw coming was the way he would fight back. After losing his job, James faced an uphill battle. The rejection shook his confidence, but it also ignited something inside him, a determination to prove his worth. He started reflecting on the bigger picture, realizing this wasn't just about him. How many others had faced similar injustices but stayed silent? James decided he wouldn't let this experience define him. Instead, he would use it to fuel his next move. Meanwhile, the company that fired him continued on as if nothing had happened. But behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. Employees began voicing concerns about unfair treatment and outdated policies. Morale was low, and cracks were starting to show. James, on the other hand, wasn't waiting for things to change. He threw himself into learning, networking, and building relationships with people who believed in his vision. He knew his moment was coming. Months passed, and James kept pushing forward, all while staying out of the public eye. He knew that the road to reclaiming his place wouldn't be easy, but the fire inside him never dimmed. He started his own business, focusing on creating a company culture built on inclusivity, respect, and innovation. Slowly but surely, his reputation began to grow. Word spread, and soon he was invited to speak at industry events, where he shared his story and challenged the status quo. Meanwhile, the company that had fired him found itself in a downward spiral. Profits were slipping, and leadership was scrambling to regain control. Employees continued to voice frustrations, and rumors about the company's treatment of minority workers started to spread publicly. The media began to take notice, and it wasn't long before the spotlight turned to James. He had become a symbol of resilience, a living testament to what could happen when someone refused to stay down. The question was no longer asterisk if asterisk he would return, but asterisk when asterisk and asterisk how asterisk. Just when it seemed like everything was aligning for James, a second twist hit, one that no one saw coming. The company that had once cast him aside, desperate to fix its growing reputation, made an unexpected move. They announced a new leadership initiative, claiming they were now committed to diversity and change. The surprising part, they revealed that James was one of the candidates they were considering for the CEO position. The move was seen as both a desperate attempt to repair their image and a bold acknowledgement of James' rise to prominence. But for James, it was a complicated offer. Was this real progress or just a corporate PR stunt? The power dynamics at play were immense. Some employees cheered, hopeful that real change could finally come. Others were suspicious, doubting the company's sudden about-face. James knew that accepting the offer would mean stepping into a world of political maneuvering and compromise. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about what he could do for the people who had stood by him, and for the broader cause of fairness. But could he trust the company that had fired him in the first place? As the deadline to make his decision approached, James had to confront not just his past, but the future he wanted to build. The day of the decision finally arrived. James stood before the board of the company that had once dismissed him, now offering him the position of CEO. The room was tense, filled with eager faces and skeptical eyes. It seemed like a dream come true, but James knew this wasn't just about stepping into power. It was about holding those in charge accountable for their actions. He could feel the weight of the moment. This was his chance to reshape everything. But as he prepared to give his answer, an unexpected revelation shook the room. The CEO chair wasn't the only offer on the table. Behind the scenes, a group of the company's highest executives had been working to oust the current leadership entirely, and they wanted James to lead a complete overhaul of the company's board. They offered him the role of chief visionary, with full control over company culture and direction. It was a shock, not just to James, but to everyone in the room. He had been brought in as a pawn in their game, but James wasn't about to play by anyone's rules. He looked around the table, realizing that the very people who had once dismissed him were now scrambling to keep him in the fold. The stakes had just gotten much higher. This wasn't about becoming a CEO. It was about taking down a broken system from the inside out. With a final, deliberate breath, James stood tall. He didn't accept the CEO position, nor did he fall into their trap. Instead, he announced his own plan. He was starting a new venture, one that would directly compete with a company that had wronged him. The audience gasped as he laid out a bold vision, one that would leave the old company behind. In the end, James didn't just reclaim his position, he rewrote the rules entirely. The company's executives watched in stunned silence, realizing that they had underestimated him at every turn. James had turned their offer into his own victory, and as he walked out of the room, the world knew that he wasn't just a survivor, he was a game changer. James' bold decision sent shockwaves through the business world. As his new company gained traction, it became a symbol of change, showcasing what was possible when you refused to be silenced. He didn't just create a successful business. He sparked a movement that forced others to reconsider their values on diversity, respect, and leadership. The old company, it struggled to recover from the fallout as employees continued to leave in search of better opportunities. James, on the other hand, was more than just a CEO. He was a voice for those who had been overlooked and underestimated. His story became a reminder that even the deepest setbacks can be turned into triumphs with enough determination and integrity. In the end, James didn't just reclaim his future. He reshaped the future for everyone who had ever been told they didn't belong.